They call him Snotwad. Songs of War is a Minecraft parody movie made by Squared Media, formerly known as Black Plasma Studios, that was first teased in August of 2019 and fully released on April 11th in 2020, the greatest birthday present any man could ask for. And I'm here to talk about it. Hey fellas, my name is Flaming Snotwad, and for my 1 year anniversary on YouTube, I would like to tell you about the original Minecraft movie. Before we get started, I want to ask you to subscribe. This video took a long time to make, so I would really love it if you could subscribe to help me get monetized. With that out of the way, thank you, and enjoy listening to me rant about stone block people for 30 minutes. The movie opens with a narration from one of the main characters, who tells of a great war that happened over 150 years ago. This war was waged between the people of Ardonia and the Netherworld, and it goes on for a whole 7.5 minutes. Despite how long it is, I think it does a pretty good job of telling the audience about the world and its people. It does drag on a little bit, and some of it could have been written better, but it does the job decent enough. Now, I'm going to assume that you have watched this movie, but if you haven't, at least go and watch the first 10 or so minutes, because as good as this movie is, you need to hear this beginning segment about the Great War to understand the rest of the story. They should have done more show than tell, but it is what it is. Okay, now that you've seen it, let's continue. The camera pans over some gorgeous mountain and into a ruin where we meet our first main character, Calius Sendaris, who has been hunting the Voltaris clan ever since the end of the Great War. This little munchkin man named Hawken believes he has found a lead on where some might be, and surprise, surprise, he's right, the Voltaris are back. So we meet one of our villains, Tigrin Voltaris. Every Ardoni has the last name of their clan, by the way. Remember that, it will be on the test. So anyways, they get into a fight, Hawken gets stabbed, and Calius barely makes it out with his life. I'm going to get into it later, but the fight scene here is only just a taste of how good the choreography gets in this movie. It is genuinely phenomenal. Anyways, we transition over to plot B of the story, with two thieves. This movie actually has two side plots, and they jump between the three a lot in the movie. So I'm going to skip over a few small scenes that aren't too relevant to the story, and squish a few others together to make it more coherent. So we're going to call Thalius' story plot A, the Thieves' story plot B, and the third one plot C. Like I said, they jump around a lot, and they never do it too much, and they definitely do it a lot better than I'm going to here. So, anyways. Plot B begins with these two thieves, Jalkar and Grim. Grim is my favorite character, by the way. They sneak into a castle, steal a dragon egg, and oh no, it was wired. So they make a break for it, and as they escape, they drop it off a cliff. This sets up plot B, and then we move back to plot A. We'll get to plot C in a minute, I swear. Back in plot A, we meet the true main character of the story, Sen, and his definitely not girlfriend, Rhea. Please note that there is a lot of romantic tension between a lot of these characters. Rhea and Sen, Lucan and Nika, Thalius and Tigrin. Trust me, you get used to it. It's not pushing it too much, but it's very noticeable that these two characters are meant to get together eventually. So anyways, Sen and Rhea are having a training duel, and then Sen straight up gets on one knee, yes, that caught me off guard too, and hands Rhea a custom-made spear. Now do you see what I mean by romantic tension? They don't get married in the movie, but if this doesn't foreshadow their future marriage, I will buy a McDonald's Big Mac and only eat the wrapper. It's probably more healthy anyway. With that aside, Thalius shows up and does the most uncle thing any man can do and says this.
And he definitely would not want you to have what I'm about to give you.
And he hands the both of them a song, which is basically the magic system in this movie. A yellow song to Rhea, and a blue song to Sen. Write that down, we will come back to that later. He's here to grab a prime song from this guy, Osivian, who is basically Sen and Rhea's surrogate father. So they talk, Sen spies on them and gets caught, and Thalius uses that as an excuse to take him on his adventure. In between this little interaction, we get the first taste of Plot C. Like I said, they jump around a lot. We meet our Plot C main character, Lucan. He's assigned to public service in the mines for committing a crime. We're never told what he did. Also, the head of the prison makes some mentions that resources are getting scarce, but there are literally diamonds in the cliff wall of this castle. So anyways, he goes to the basalt mines, meets some drunk hobo who is meant to guard him, and surprise surprise, he gets attacked by the undead and Eddie dies.
Them off! Go reach the alarm! Eddie!
Okay, we're back to Plot B. The dragon egg is discovered by our main character for Plot B, this little girl named Abigail, who lives with an old coot who takes care of her after her parents died. Basically, she's the generic anime protagonist who has a tragic family history and may or may not be only half human, and they are not subtle about it, like, at all. Also, she never harvested the sugarcane like she was supposed to. Stupid little bitch. Back to Plot C again, Lucan stumbles his way into a village to warn everyone about the monsters, but since he still owes the city service for his crimes, he's then sent to hunt them down. Here's where we meet our over-romanticized couple number 2, Nika, a cat girl hunting necromancers. So they team up. Back over in the Plot B, Abigail has a dream about the end or something, and then gets the dragon egg stolen from her by Grimm and the other guy. They beat her up, and then she goes after them. Jumping again, we're heading to Plot A. Sen and Thalius have arrived at Oakendale, a city in Concord, which is one of the 6 kingdoms of Ardonia. Anyways, they need to be in another kingdom, so they use a beacon to fast travel across the world to Crown Peak, which is honestly such a cool concept, and if anything from this movie should be added into the actual game, it's this feature. Beacons need more use.
We have permission to activate warp speed. Later, idiots.
Welcome to Crown Peak.
So they use the beacon for fast travel. We get a small lore dump from Thal Pal that 2 of the 6 kingdoms are at war, Carthan and Sidonia. And then they meet up with one of Thal's old friends, Solomon. They give him the prime song that he yoinked from that other guy whose name I don't remember, and then dip. Simple as that. Are you still keeping up? Good, because we're not even halfway through the movie. Boom! We're back in Plot C. Nika and Lucan capture a necromancer and plan to steal his robes and sneak into the main necromancer base, which is in a volcano. And Lord have mercy, they gave Lucan teeth! Okay, side tangent. Throughout the entire movie, every character has just like a black little void inside their mouth, and it works with the movie, but this is the one scene, the one time they give him teeth, and it just kill it with fire. Kill it with fire. Okay, moving on. Back flipping again over to Plot A, nothing much here. We get a small lore drop from our Thal Pal. He's getting old, and Sen is an orphan, but I bet most of the audience could probably tell that already. Continuing on again, Grimm and Jalkar are trying to steal a group of horses from Abigail's friend, but Abigail shows up and stops them, so they make a break for it, and Abigail hangs out with her friend for a little bit before catching up with them on horseback. Okay, now things get really juicy. Buckle up and strap in, because we're getting into major spoiler town. If you have not seen this movie, even though I'm explaining it to you all right here, go watch it yourself and come back. We are past the point of no return. Welcome back to all those who actually left. Anyways, Sen and Thalius from Plot A arrive back at Sen's hometown and everyone is dead. Fire is everywhere, bodies are littered throughout the wreckages. Boom. Cliffhanger. Don't say I didn't warn you. We're back into Plot B again. Camera focuses on Grimm and Knife Boy as they meet up with their buyers. Surprise, it's the Voltaurus. They want the egg. But they have a disagreement. Knife guy and scythe guy kill all but one, and now they need a new buyer for the egg. Abigail is still hot on their trail. Okay, back to plot C. Lucan is in the Necro Dungeon. He sneaks in undetected, just barely, finds out they're raising an army of undead to attack the living, gee, what a shock, and he's coerced into joining two other Necro Bros on a mission to hunt down Nika. Okay, let's slow down for just a second. I am 90% sure that this guy right here is Osivian, so he is confirmed dead. But I double checked, I went through all the bodies that I saw. I did not see anyone that had the same or similar markings as Rhea. And if we don't see the body, they're not dead. That's story writing 101. So she is still out there and still might get married to Sen. I really don't want to eat that Big Mac wrapper. Moving on, the Voltaris clan are behind the massacre, and Thalius holds them off as Sen runs back to grab the horse. The horse's name is Timber, by the way. I don't think I ever mentioned that. Sen comes back for Thalius on Timber. They get into a scuffle, and then Thalius makes a break for it, and he dies. Penetrated by Tigrin's spear. I always knew he was a bottom. Okay, post-edit Benjamin Snotwad here. I forgot to mention this, but as Sen and Thalius are running away, Thalius mentions taking Sen to Ataraxia. Remember Ataraxia, we'll get to that later. We continue the second act low point in plot C as Lucan gets discovered and Nika's tree fort gets burned down. Luckily, they both survive and are off to report what they found to the council in Felden. As if there wasn't already enough salt in the wound with Thalius' death, Sen runs into a nearby village to get help and gets flat out ignored by the entire village. They're all racist. So, Sen leaves with a new character to find a map to Ataraxia. Ignorus the Magnerite. Good old comedy relief character, because honestly, we could really use one of those right now. Alright, low point's almost over, so bear with me just a little bit longer. Grim and Jalkar get into a tussle with some Endermen, and as they try to make their escape, Knife Guy betrays Grim and leaves him to deal with Abigail and escape with the egg. So Grim tussles with the girl, and Abigail defeats Grim because of the plot, and then Abigail leaves him to continue to keep pace with the Knife Guy. Okay, now something really cool happens. We're out of the second act low point. Plot A and Plot B have a little interaction. Jalkar tries to steal Timber, but gets thwarted thanks to Igneous. Afterward, in the nearby town of Biggerton, Abigail lets Sen and Igneous borrow her map. I love this little interaction they had, and I wish they did it more in the movie, but this is all we get. Also, I want to just take a moment to say, I'm sorry if you're having trouble keeping up. I'm trying my best to balance these stories as I tell them to you. In hindsight, it might have been a bit better to tell you each story one at a time, but this is already the third edit of this script, and I don't want to write a whole new one. Moving forward, Plot C continues as Nika and Lucan are sent to a military camp to prepare for war with the Necromancers. They have some romantic tension, they meet an old friend, and then Lucan sets off to sail to war. Okay, now it's time to take it down a notch, because we spend quite a bit of time with Plot A. Sen and Iggy Boy encounter some guardians in a river. They suck Sen in, read his mind or something, and then spit him back out. Igneous, being the bookworm that he is, explains that the guardians are really old species that guard sacred areas in Ardonia, which, makes sense. Now, they're in the land of the Ardoni people, Ataraxia, and they meet up with Thalius' brother, Gallius. Yes, he has a brother who is never mentioned, but he's here now, so deal with it. Gallius has a crash out over his brother's death. Appropriate reaction, honestly, I would do the same. And he talks with Sen and Igneous about raising an army to fight the Voltaris and the undead. Igneous dunks his head in some lava, what a goofball, and then he's sent to stop a war between the two kingdoms that was mentioned earlier in the movie. Basically setting up a plot D for the next movie that never comes. Also, we get a short and sweet little scene with the elders of the clans discussing what to do about the Sendaria massacre. And it's honestly one of my favorite scenes in the movie, but I can't really put a finger on why. Alrighty, we're about to wrap up Plot B. Are you ready? Because it ends on a really sour note. Here we go. Being tired of being chased by Abigail for the whole movie, Jalkar kills the dog in a scuffle, and then Abigail kills him. So Abigail goes to bury the dog, and then immediately afterward, without skipping a beat, the egg hatches. Baby dragon, bottom text. And that's the ending for Plot B. I'm gonna keep it real with you, Chief. That ending was kind of mid. I didn't like it. Alright, we're entering true Climax Town now. We're gonna wrap up Plot C. Lucan and the army of cat people show up to the undead hideout, but oh no, they were too late. By the time they get back, everything is on fire, but at least Nika is alive. Boom, Plot C over. Okay, we have one last little lore dump before we hit the climax and the cliffhanger. Gallius talks to Sen and basically wraps up everything going on and sets up all the strings for the never-released sequel. The war with the necromancers in Felden, Igneous going to Carthan to stop the civil war, and the birth of the Ender Dragon. And last but not least, we set up Sen's training arc to prepare him for war. Alright, climax time. A small group of Ardoni run to the top of the mountain from the beginning of the movie to fight the Voltaris. They get there, and a glorious battle ensues. But just as the Voltaris are at the end of the rope, at the mountain's peak, an obsidian portal through time opens to 150 years ago, and we see the Death Singer and the Tide Singer in their final battle, the two characters from the beginning narration. Okay, this is like the best fight in the entire movie. I'll talk about it later and show it in its entirety, so bear with me until then, because like I said, we're almost done. So, the Death Singer defeats the Tide Singer in the final battle, and then he walks through the portal into the present day. He draws his sword, and then the credits roll. I've been recording for like the past 2 weeks, on and off. I am so tired. I am so tired. I am never writing a script again. I'm just making it up on the fly. I am just gonna make it up on the fly. No more writing scripts. I hate. Alright, let's talk about the plot a little bit. I only have 3 main nitpicks I have with the plot, but the rest of it is pretty fine. First, I think we could have benefited from cutting out Plot C entirely. That way we could spend more time with Plot A and B, and instead we could drop a few hints about the Necromancers and set that up for the cancelled sequel. Like I said earlier, jumping between the plots wasn't too sporadic, but I think it would have been a worthwhile change so we could let Plot A and B cook a little bit more. Second, there is a lot of unnecessary romantic tension between a few characters, most specifically Nika and Lucan. I joked about it earlier, but a lot of it comes out of nowhere and feels kind of shoehorned in. Like I said, if it was given a bit more time to cook, maybe it would have come out better, but I digress. Third, finally, I'm not a big fan of Plot B's ending. It felt rushed, and the dog dying felt very unnecessary. Especially because right afterward he was replaced with the baby dragon. He should have stayed home with the old coot. That's all I really have to say. I'm no professional critic. I just like movies and games. So take what I say with a grain or two of salt. I didn't exactly do too much research on the plot of this movie. And I don't know what kind of crunches they had to go through to get it out. But I'll get to that later. Right now, let's move on to the characters. Let's start with Sen. Honestly, he's alright to begin with, but he doesn't develop enough throughout the movie. At the end of the movie, he is set up to be trained by Gallius, so he is supposed to evolve a little bit, but it's sad that we don't see him grow much in the movie. Also, he never once uses the blue song that Thalius gives him. That may have come in handy once or twice. I'm just saying. Next, let's talk about Abigail. She has a passable arc in the movie, taking after her parents and becoming an adventurer. Her story feels like a pilot episode for a generic adventure anime. Honestly, I'm all here for it, but the dog dying at the end is still very unnecessary. The fact that he gets immediately replaced by the baby dragon is just salt in the wound. I think he should have stayed home with the old man. I said that already. Dang it, I wrote that in the script twice. Final main character, Lucan. Lucan would have to be my second favorite character besides Grimm. He's here only because he has to. He's relatable, he's got game, he's been to prison more than once, but he's genuinely a good guy who just wants to make it to tomorrow, and I really relate to that. Final character I really want to talk about is Rhea, because we never see her body. She's definitely not dead. And I think I know how she survived. The yellow songs in the movie are basically mobility magic, so maybe that's how, but we may never know because the movie sequel was canceled. Other than that, she's one of the last living female Ardoni, but that's about it. We don't get enough time with her, so that's basically her only trait in the movie, is that she's just a girl who wants to go on adventures. But despite that, her character feels too important to just drop. Okay, let's rapid fire through some side characters. One to 3 sentences each. We aren't going to go through all of them, just some of them. Grimm. He may be mute, but his actions speak louder than words. He's a lovable guy who's stuck with a bad crowd. I should have bought merch of this guy when I had the chance. I will forever regret not doing so. Mr. Finch, the old coot, serves his purpose of being Abigail's caretaker. Honestly, I don't like this guy. Felt less like he cared about her and more like he felt obligated to protect her and didn't want to. Igneous, this guy is chill. He's basically a remember this guy character that only shows up again in small cameos to move the plot, but I like him and he's funny. Solomon, the drug dealer. I bet you this guy's probably gonna get fridged. He foreshadowed something by mentioning how tall his balcony was, so I bet you he's gonna fall off that in some point trying to protect the Prime song. That, or he's gonna use a slow falling potion to get down there safely. But I did in fact check, it is 25 blocks, give or take a slab. Jalkar, the knife guy. I keep forgetting his name because Grimm keeps stealing every scene that he's in. He's a jerk who only cares for himself, but I could see him having a redemption arc if he wasn't killed. Maybe have a necromancer bring him back to life or something, I don't know. Nika, Lucan's not girlfriend. I'm glad she's here, but I feel like removing her from the story would do Lucan's arc better. The romance is unnecessary. All the other characters that I didn't mention had too minor of a role to be mentioned, but they're all still unique enough to stand out in their own way, especially the Ardoni, who have a very simple design yet are all different in some way. Oh yeah, Tigrin's here too, I guess. Despite being the main villain, he's kind of forgettable. But yeah, he's the villain. That's it. Alright, now let's talk about the animation / choreography. I'm going to show you the final battle between the Death Singer and the Tide Singer, uncut and unedited, just so you can see how beautiful it is, because honestly, it speaks for itself. The songs are such a unique magic for the Ardoni to wield, and the weapons are all so well designed, and most of them are designed with the songs in mind. The animations for the songs are all color-coded, which is such a nice touch that helps you keep with the flow of the fights. And the action is fast, but it never feels impossible to follow. The Ardoni's glow helps you keep track of which characters are which when the characters are fighting, and when they use the songs, the environment is also lit up, and it just makes a treat for the eyes.
Certainly have improved your ability to wield the songs. I wonder what you would have done had you been given the primes.
Prime songs have always been your desire, not mine. I would have refused them, for no one should wield their combined power.
That is what they all say, until you have felt them for yourself.
What are you doing here, Ingressus? What sort of magic are you attempting to unleash? You have already lost.
You are right. I have lost this war. But you have not defeated me. You are my greatest adversary, Achillean. You united the clans, allied with the Ender Knights, and brought together an army which I could never have hoped to destroy. And you, Achillean, stood between me and the Prime songs. Do you remember who it was who suggested I enter the tournament in the first place? I cannot win this war. Not now. But I will return. Long after this battle is over, and I have been forgotten. When Ardonia has grown weak, and my enemies are gone. And when you are no longer there to stop me!
Can you see why I love this movie? Okay, let me get a very minor nitpick with the songs out of the way. There are 5 Ardoni clans: Valtaris, Sendaris, Mindoris, Kaltaris, and Nestoris. But there are only 4 colors of song: red, green, yellow, and blue. Why not add a pink one from the Mindoris clan? Just make it a healing song for medicine or something. All the other songs have their own utility for battle, so would it be so hard to add one more color so that you have one for each? Just call it a super rare one that most never see or something. Okay, nitpick aside, let's talk about the 4 songs, because they are very well designed and written into the story. Each color has a use. Red is offensive, blue is defensive, yellow is for mobility, and green is the wild card. I think it's only used twice in the whole movie, but I think it's some kind of terraforming / telekinetic type ability. And there are so many different ways that they can be used, and the movie makes use of them perfectly. The songs are used sparingly throughout the movie, just enough to where one shows up you know things are about to go down. But they aren't an instant win. A skilled person can counter a song with good precision and timing, so they aren't overpowered. It's just a really good magic system, and I want to see more of it. One more thing I want to go over with the songs in the movie. On a few weapons in the movie, specifically with the Death Singer's sword and Grimm's scythe, there is an enchanted effect. Now, obviously, the sword is supposed to be enchanted with fire aspect, but we don't have an enchantment for the scythe, unless you want to count that as channeling, but that's for tridents. Is it possible that these specific tools were enchanted with songs? I think it would be cool to consider that humans, or any other species that can't wield them, fused songs into their tools so that they could. There are a lot of wide shots in the movie, where a few characters are traveling, or something of the sort, and it takes time to pan over backgrounds and show some of the areas that we don't exactly spend too much time in. Each one is so beautiful, and it's very apparent that we are only scratching the surface of this world. I will mention, there is a lack of light coming from the fires in this movie, but I didn't really notice until it was pointed out to me, but the rest of the lighting is very well done. But some of the fire is just off. Like, that should be a lot more glowing. And why is this fire even here? It's not illuminating anything. Alright, now we get to the juicy stuff. The cancellation. The unfortunate cancellation of Songs of War began as early as the 2nd episode. As Songs of War was being developed, it was released in episodes, 10 in total. The first episode was released in November of 2019, and Black Plasma Studios went all in. It was stated in the cancellation announcement video that is no longer up on their channel that the head of Black Plasma at the time went back to almost every video he had made and set the end cards to suggest the first episode. But that was where the vast majority of the views came from. From the release of the second video onwards, the video's views declined drastically, to the point where they were losing money on the project, which forced their hand on the cancellation after the full movie was released. which is a massive shame because at one point a full trilogy of movies was planned, and fans have been begging for news ever since. Well, a few months ago, they finally delivered. In December of 2024, Squared Media released a video confirming that Songs of War content is back on the table. In the video, they go over concerns about whether or not they had the right to make more content in this SOW universe. Instead of reiterating what they said, I'll link the video in the description along with a few others. Long before this announcement, for as long as the last episode had been released, fan projects have kept Songs of War alive. It was, to my knowledge, consistently in the top 10 of their most popular videos on their channel. And because the unfinished scripts were released, there have been multiple fan movies animated and voiced by fans, and even fan bloopers. Oh my gosh, I love the bloopers. I haven't seen these fan movies, but maybe I'll check them out. I'll leave a link to a few of them in the description as well. The dedication to keep such a niche franchise alive is remarkable and should be recognized. Okay, there's one more thing that I want to talk about before wrapping up this video. I want to talk about the Ardoni again. The Ardoni are without a doubt my favorite fantasy race ever. They are so well done. But I can't help but feel like the idea of the Ardoni is limited by the fact that it is a Minecraft parody movie. The rest of the movie is very well connected to Minecraft. In fact, it revels in it. From the Nether to the Ender Knights, it takes what Minecraft has and expands on it masterfully. But the Ardoni is a Squared Media exclusive race made for the movie setting. I want to reiterate real quick that I haven't seen the fan sequels, nor have I read the unfinished scripts. This little fan theory that I have is entirely based on the first movie. I have heard some plot points from the scripts, but I won't spoil them here. I want to encourage you to go check them out on your own. The different clans of the Ardoni are something I would love to have explored. The Valtaris clan was banished long ago because of their misuse of the songs. But what about the other clans and their cultures? Are they tied to the colored songs? Maybe the red songs were made by the Valtaris to rule over the tribes, and the blue songs were made by the Sendaris tribe to defend against them. There are so many ideas that could be explored, and so much that a whole show could be made on the Ardoni alone. In conclusion of this absolute unorganized mess of a video essay, Songs of War is a pretty dang good movie, and I hope that just maybe I have encouraged you to check it out yourself, even if you aren't the biggest fan of Minecraft. Like I said earlier in the video, I'm no professional critic, so I would love to have someone who is a lot more experienced to talk about and take a look at this movie. Like Saberspark, for example. I feel like this would be right up his alley. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go check out those fan movies. They are based on the released scripts, so I guess they're technically canon. Aw crap, I never talked about Calius.